There we go.
Welcome back to the not televised revolution. What billions in Fed repo injections reveal about the promise of Bitcoin?
This is kind of a serious little thing. I would call this a bonus episode for the week because this is a developing situation. We're in the midst of another bank bailout. Did you know that?
Woohoo!
You know what? They already did. They already did about a third of it, and they're about to inject a total of $1 trillion into our banking system over the next 10 business days. They've already done it for 4 days, so we're about a third of the way through it. And I bet you didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know until about 2 hours ago. I watched this stuff. This is the only article I could find on it. Um,
It watches the news like it puts a lotion on skin.
I watch financial news like it's in my interest to do so because it is. So, like, I, and additionally, I'm just really interested with markets. So the long and the short of what's going down is there's a market, they call it the repo market, but it's the securities repurchase. What this securities repurchase market, what this apparatus does is it allows this bank, who has a bunch of liquidity at the end of the day, lend some of that liquidity to that bank that needs liquidity at the end of the day. Because there's always bills that have to be covered at the end of the day, every day. There's always accounting that needs to be done. And so therefore you have to have the money, the actual cash comes from somewhere. If you ever go into the negatives, you go to this market and you borrow what you need from, if you're Chase, you borrow what you need from Wells Fargo, and Wells Fargo lays it down to you in an extraordinarily low interest rate. So what started happening is that the liquidity inside that market, all of the banks didn't have were starting to need extra liquidity at the same time. They couldn't lend to each other because both Wells Fargo and Chase and Citigroup and a couple of others all needed extra liquidity at the same time. So, because they didn't have the actual cash to cover the margins, the government had to step in and put a little bit of cash into this market and loan it to them at the interest rates that they're used to paying. Now, but
Isn't this wouldn't this be the point in the conversation where modern monetary theory comes in? Like quantitative easing, right? Is what you're talking about?
they're trying to frame it as not quantitative easing. They're trying to say that even though all of the banks, at the end of the day, multiple days in a row, are insolvent, even though that's a truth, okay, and uh, uh, okay, like if they're insolvent for multiple days in a row for a quarter, then that means that they're actually insolvent. Now, if they're insolvent, they just can't stand on their own weight anymore, and then we have to bail them out like we did last time. But instead of doing that, we're going to frame it as a loan. We're going to say that this bailout isn't going to continue, and we're going to cut interest rates, and we're going to do this at a roaring economy. Okay? We're doing the exact same things that we did in 2008, only we're not telling you about it this time. That's all that's going on. We're putting all these loans, and I put quotations in the air. They weren't loans. Um, uh, like when it comes down
Public
to it,
money, but we can't sew it back together again.
when you
Holy crap!
when you pay when the taxpayer paid out 23 trillion ish dollars to the banks and they paid approximately between all of them 1 trillion in return. That's not a loan. That's a gift. And so we're 1 trillion in at the end of this month, beginning of October. And that's just the beginning. Plus they cut interest rates. So, obviously, first and foremost, obviously, we're not in a bull market. This is not time. These are dark economic times, but I'm pretty sure almost everybody knows that. Um, at least I hope so. If you're listening to Trump tell you that the economy is stronger than ever, um, I'm sad to say the numbers say
Yeah.
otherwise.
Yeah.
Um, and that's not good for his political fortune. And this might not be this is bad for Trump, and it's bad for us too. Don't get me wrong, but you know, um, at least I don't know. At least we'll know that he won't be able to hide it for very much longer. The economy will crash right before the election. There's going to be no choice but to either bail out the system like it just did, and of course he's not talking about it because he doesn't want to be the bailout guy. He in
Well,
fact ran.
that's why the revolution has to be podcasted, and that's what we're doing here.
Yeah,
And
and mainstream media isn't talking about this either because it's not in their interest to talk about it, at least not for the moment, until enough people notice that they have to talk about it, that they don't have a
yeah,
choice. They're probably not going to talk about this, I predict, for at least 3 weeks. This trillion will have already come and gone. Um, what they say that they're going to do, um, what they say that they're going to do, um, it, down here in the article, when it goes, uh, when it goes down, and actually this article on Yahoo Finance is actually pretty in depth. It's talking about it talks about a lot of different little things that are taking place at this time. Trying as indications that the global economy is slowing down all at once. The China is slowing down, like its GDP growth over the last year has gone down to 6%, which is huge. Would be huge for us. Ours has been kind of stagnant at 2 since the early 2000s, um, but I mean that would be a huge boost for us if we could get 6% economic growth. But China is used to getting 9 to 11%. So for them, that's a huge economic hit. They that's a you know that's a at least a 3% hit in a single year. Now, of course, China. Who cares about China, right? It affects you because your prices are going to, in theory, have to go up because of the tariffs. Um, And if we can't get those products back from China, which we will, Trump will eventually capitulate because we need them more than they need us. Um, Either that or the next guy will capitulate. Somebody's going to capitulate to China. Either way, uh, when these two um, our trade war is slowing down the global economy, but it's not just that. It's also events that are taking place in Europe. It's also events that are taking place here and in Canada, and of course the Iran stuff, the Saudi Arabian oil facility that just got shut down. All of these things are holding together, are happening all at once, and um, the global economy will, because of all of the uncertainty, have to stop investing, and so therefore, I mean, they're just going to stop doing it. Everything's so volatile.
right, right,
It's just the
right.
way it is, It's just the way it
Right,
is.
revolution is coming, and that's the whole point of my entire brand. We have, like Greta Thunberg said, we have our eyes on you. The conversation is over. The show episode is over, but the conversation never ends. Thanks, my dude.
No,
Thanks for
no,
hosting
no
me.
problem, man.